And thank you for joining us today. And I call the September 2nd, 2021 meeting of the Native American Commission to order. Let's begin with an introduction of commission members, starting with John.
Thank you, Madam Chair. John Strand with the Fargo City Commission.
Rebecca Knudsen with the Fargo Board of Education.
Lenore King, I represent the Sisseton Wahpeton Oyate.
I'm Emily Sargent. I'm from the White Earth Nation.
And we have Sonia Donahue. Okay, and then how about Ashley Littlewolf? Are you on?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so on the phone we have Ashley Littlewolf, who is our new member, and today is her first meeting. We'll have an official induction in October or November. Welcome, Ashley, and say your name and tell us a little bit about you.
My name is Ashley Littlewolf, and I am an enrolled member of Boys Sport Tribe of Minnesota. I currently work as a workforce development case manager at Senka, and I've been working in the community as a case manager since 2017. Super excited to join.
All right, thank you. And then Whitney?
I apologize for being late. Whitney Fear, Oglala Sioux Tribe.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go ahead and approve the agenda and minutes. And so can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Oppose, the same sign. Okay, motion carried. Thank you. All right, the next items to approve in the minutes for August 5th, the 2021 meeting. And can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I so move.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Oppose, the same sign. Okay, motion carried. And first of all here, we're going to go ahead with public comment. I think we have someone in the room here. And the next item is public comment. For those who wish to address the commission must use the sign-in sheet. Speakers must state their name and will be limited to 2 minutes. Comments should not contain profanity and personal attacks. And staff, do we have anyone signed up in public comment? Oh, they'll talk about the Indigenous Association when we get that. Okay, so there is none. So we're going to start with the Truth and Reconciliation Day. September 30th is recognized as the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation in Canada. Whitney, do you want to speak more to the significance of this day?
Sure. So I'm not going to go up there, if that's okay. I don't have a presentation or anything. The reason I wanted to have this added to the agenda today is that I would like to ask the Native American Commission if they, as a board as a whole, if we might consider proposing to the city of Fargo to recognize Truth and Reconciliation Day as a formal, reoccurring, annual day, as in the same way that we have Indigenous Peoples Day. There's several boarding schools in the state of North Dakota, and I think that it has been a year of revelations as far as the depth of things, and those revelations not being necessarily for our people, as we were aware of those things before, but it is a opportunity for the public to become better educated on that. And so this is Truth and Reconciliation Day. It's a day that Canada has recognized since 2013. Typically it's observed with events and wearing the color orange. And that sorry, I feel like I'm gonna lose my voice. Oh, sorry, fall allergies are kicking in early. So that got started as a result of remembering a boarding school student, Phyllis Webstad, who, when she got sent to boarding school in British Columbia, her grandmother had bought her a brand new orange shirt to wear to her time there, and they, along with all of her other belongings, removed that from her. And that was something that was very special, as at the time that occurred, things like orange dye and fabric would have been really hard to come by and probably was pretty expensive. And it was, again, like one thing in a whole group of personal belongings that were removed from her. So that date, again, as Lenore already mentioned, is September 30th. There is going to be an event in Bismarck that Sacred Pipe Resource Center is kind of spearheading. I'm kind of in contact with somebody that is helping to organize that to maybe kind of tether as like a sister kind of observation or whatever, if we're able to get this done for this year. But I do think that Fargo has a history of being a leader as far as communities in the state of North Dakota, and I think that might be a good opportunity to demonstrate that leadership again.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? John?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Whitney, I have a note on our agenda to bring that topic up and request future agenda focus on that. So I'm really, really relieved and pleased you are bringing that up, the topic of boarding schools. If I remember right, Sharon Whitebear, who's on our commission, was in a boarding school, wasn't she?
I don't know.
I think. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Sharon can correct us. But I would like to learn more from the start. People can't assume all of us in the community understand the breadth and the depth and the reach of the issue and the nuances of it and the importance of it. So that's where I would like to start. My suggestion might be that we make this a focus going forward, like we have with missing and murdered and missing Indigenous women, like we did with Columbus Day going into Indigenous Peoples Day. I'm not sure how soon we could get traction at the city level to do that, but maybe at a minimum, if somebody presented the motion, maybe we could ask the mayor for a proclamation for this year and not worry about forever proclamations. And then we as a commission start our dialogue locally, because I'm guessing the community is very interested in this topic. The people out there want to learn more, and we're in a position and the timing is good. So that would be my suggestion, is have a motion to ask the Native American Commission maybe draft a proclamation for this year and see if we can present it to the mayor, and at a minimum it comes from the Native American Commission, if that makes sense, Madam Chair?
Yes, okay. So do we want to go ahead with that then? So can I get a motion to present a draft of proclamation to the city of Fargo? Is that it?
I would suggest we have it brought forward by the Native American Commission, authored by the Native American Commission, with the request that, and if we need to, we convene or do it, we approve it, or however we do that, we maybe approve it proactively. And then we ask the mayor for his signature, and if it isn't possible, we've still advanced it on our own. If that makes sense?
Okay. So do we have enough people to make a motion? Okay. All right. Might not get this perfectly said, but would you like to
I'd
say it?
prefer one of the native members make the motion if possible.
Okay, all right. So we're gonna go ahead with the motion to draft a proclamation brought forward by the Native American Commission and ask the mayor to sign it?
Correct.
Okay. And we will continue forward with this, the boarding school thing, and keep this as a future agenda.
Absolutely.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve this?
I motion.
Can I get a second?
I can second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Oppose, the same sign? Okay, thank you, John. Motion carried.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Whitney, thank you for bringing that up. I feel remiss that I haven't asked for this information earlier in my service. So the world is delivering us a moment in time to have this discussion.
And thank you for the suggestions of how, like, best to proceed. I was actually hoping to get your feedback, John, during the meeting.
Thank you.
about that.
If I may, I have a question. John, when is the next commission meeting? So, and is that something then we would look to be having on an agenda for a commission meeting? Is there something coming up so that potentially it could get approved before the 30th?
The next commission meeting is September 7th. We're too late for that agenda, but then 2 weeks later on that Monday, I don't have my calendar in front of me, but it's like the 20th. Does anybody have a calendar to know what that Monday is?
You said 2 weeks after
Yep.
the 7th?
That-
That would be the 18th.
So September 18th to Monday would be our next commission meeting. And then we could have the Native American Commission advance this to the city agenda.
Okay. All right, thank you. Anything else? All right, here we go. We're going to get the Indigenous Association report by Holly Mackey. Can you get up here? Can't talk right today.
It's the rain.
I'm going to lower this since there's, for the record, anyone listening online, nobody within 20 feet of me. So hi, I'm Holly. I've met most of you, I think. John, I've not met you before. And I am the interim executive director for the Indigenous Association currently. I was formerly on the board for Indigenous Association from November until June. And this isn't so much a report as I think in some sense it's kind of giving you an idea of what it is that we're doing and how it is that we could ask for additional support from all of you as a commission. But then secondarily, you know, I'm really thrilled to hear what you were just talking about with having boarding school awareness, because we've already preemptively started a lot of that work through the Indigenous Association. So if in fact you're going to move forward with a proclamation and potentially having it recognized as a day every year through Fargo, that would be helpful for us. So to begin with, because actually I don't know a lot of you over there, I'm on faculty at NDSU. I'm an associate professor of educational leadership, and my area of research and expertise is in Indigenous education. So I work with multiple states and U.S. territories and the federal government on how to best marry education policy with federal Indian law, and then how can we really operationalize that in a way that allows us to provide the education based off of the trust responsibility into our public schools. So, and I say that not because it should matter necessarily to you, but I think that for you to know what lens I'm using as I'm coming into this role with the Indigenous Association is important. So we're very focused on educational opportunities, community engagement, and outreach. And so if any of you have worked in Indian Ed, you know that that's exactly what an Indian education program does. So we're structuring a lot of our current work in that model, in how do we make sure that we reach the people who are most in need while providing educational opportunities for those who might not in need but could use additional resources, and then making sure that we're doing community outreach to educate not just the Indigenous community but the community at large about the issues that our communities are facing. So right now, in terms of activities, I've gone through all of the minutes that are publicly available online, which is not a lot of minutes for the Native American Commission, nor are the minutes all that terribly detailed. So one thing, I think as part of a report, but also a request, I don't know if there's a way to get the back meeting minutes that are not online or if there's a way to get updates. But when I stepped into the role, what we had is an organization that had been established and then COVID hit. And so then it sat dormant for quite some time. And in the meantime, through that dormancy, we were locked into a lease that is $2,800 a month on a 4,818 square foot space. And so in order to jumpstart the programming, knowing that we had the space and knowing that we had bills to pay, I've been focused primarily on grant writing in particular, but also how do we set up programming in the space that reflects the will of the Native American Commission. Because my understanding, and Anna and Tanya came with me today, I've had to really learn everything I know about the history of Fargo. I've only been here 2 years, so I've had to learn as much as I could, right, about all of the overtime with the previous Native American Center and all of the activist movements and all of the players, like who's doing what, when, where, and why. And then bump those up against the Native American Commission meeting minutes to make sure that if in fact the portion of our funding that comes from you is intended to support programming, that we're working in alignment with the Native American Commission's goals. And so we think we've done a pretty good job of that. And so as of June, we have hosted a number of events that we're very proud of. First of all, some of you came to the Native American Community Picnic, which of course was on hiatus because of COVID last year. And so we hosted that on August 7th. And we had a little over 150 people attend. And so we were really excited about that. We had 2 live bands. We had giveaways, a grill and a smoker giveaway. We had just a lot of activity, a lot of things there. We had the bounce house for the kids. And so we anticipate that that's going to grow back up to the numbers that it was prior to COVID at some point in time. And part of the strategy, I think, in getting that word out is really utilizing social media. So Indigenous Association has the Facebook page, and we've seen an increase in followers. I think it's like 94%. So we've almost, I think, quadrupled the number of followers we have and people engaging with our social media. And so from there, the following week hosted a table at Pride. And so part of the boarding school efforts, we also have been doing these kind of like small fundraisers, trying to get some funding into Indigenous Association, which, just as a matter of record, our base operating costs at the current funding structure with a part-time executive director and I would say a part-time program coordinator, but the way that it was originally written at $600 a month, you really don't even get a part-time anything, right, for $600 a month. So right now we just have the one part-time coordinator or part-time executive director. Our base operating costs are around $65,000 a year. So obviously the $30,000 from the city generously offsets that. And I know Nicole was very instrumental in getting us one of the Consensus Council grants last year, so that was helpful for that as well. So in the meantime, in order to raise funding, we need to split the difference between what we receive from the city and what the actual costs of operating are. We've been doing like Fry Bread fundraiser. I know Tanya had done that in the fall. We are selling bracelets right now. So we are selling boarding school remembrance bracelets. They're paracord bracelets with clasps, $10 a piece. We've raised almost $1,000 with that. Tanya's birthday's next week, and she put up a fundraiser on Facebook, and she's raised more money than all of us combined in 2 days. And so that was kind of the piece to the Pride, is to get ourselves out there, to make sure people know that we're doing something, and then have a platform to try to raise some money there. Along with that, specifically related to Pride, one of the pieces that I think Whitney's most likely apprised you of is we engaged in a strategic planning session back in January for Indigenous Association. And as a result of that, we had some very specific goals and some very specific demographic group sorts of organizing we wanted to do. So one of those pieces, starting on the 6th, which I realize is Labor Day, but on the 6th, the first Monday of every night of the month, we have now started a Two-Spirit LGBTQIA+ group that will come together. And one of our goals with Indigenous Association right now is to make sure that we're uplifting the strengths of our community and recognizing what the diversity of tribal representation brings to our area. And so, as opposed to a trauma group, right? It's not a trauma support group. It's a way to come together, to laugh, to talk, to eat, right? All of these things. So that's starting on Monday. So we'll have a Two-Spirit LGBTQIA+ group every Monday. The first Monday, not every Monday. And then we have on the 4th Wednesday of every month, we are hosting the Native Youth Circle. And we're seeing a lot of kids starting to show up for that. And so we've been pushing that through Facebook as well. Brandon Beatty and YouthWorks is in partnership with that. And one of the ideas that we're working with the students on now is establishing an Indigenous Youth Association. So as a subsection of what we're doing, we're going to have some specific youth programming, and we're going to recruit students who are participating already in different activities to take the lead on that. So instead of having Dr. Mackey planning the youth programming for 15-year-olds, we can have 15-year-olds providing the input as to what they're interested in and what they want to learn. Because I haven't been 15 for a very long time. So I don't know. I don't even follow TikTok. So there's that. I'm trying to think of those are the two things we have done specifically, right? We've also moved into the IA space up in the museum, and I would encourage you to come and see that space. It's a beautiful space, but it's a very empty space. So I think one of the things that perhaps was unanticipated when we were establishing Indigenous Association, which I wasn't a part of that, so not we necessarily. When the commission was working to establish it, one of the things that I don't know that anyone took into account is the fact that if you're going to rent a space, you have to furnish that space, right? We have to provide the materials for that space that are necessary. So right now, if you came up there, it's very large and very echoey, and we have a whiteboard. We just had a whiteboard donated on wheels. So aside from the furniture that was left over from the original Native American Center, right, that's what we have up there. So I would encourage you to come up and check out that space because I would like to work closely with the commission in the future in thinking about how do we then create the space that it was intended to be, which as per the mission, right, is a space worthy of our Indigenous community. So we have the structure, we just don't have now the pieces that can make it work. Some of the things that the board have talked about doing in that room or in that space is having a dedicated computer lab. There's one area that has strips of power through the middle. We have a full kitchen. We want to make sure that we outfit that full kitchen so we can have different types of food sovereignty or meal preparation options in that space. We have a conference room and no conference table. We actually don't have anything. So we have a washer and dryer in there. So we've talked about different ideas on community programming and then targeting it in a way that, you know, for our community members who might not have a washer and dryer in their home, while they're having their program or say a financial literacy class or what have you, right, they would also have the option to do their laundry in a safe space. And so that's kind of the facilities. I feel like I'm all over the board and I apologize. We've done a lot in 2.5 months. It's really, really exciting. So we also then have partnered with West Fargo Library and Fargo Library with the One Book, One Community. And that's been interesting, just, you know, to come into something already established in the city and then figure out how we can contribute to that it's been a rewarding piece of this particular position for me. But so if you would have seen on the One Book, One Community flyers in their books, like we're listed as a partner in that. And so we're gearing up to start some very specific reading circles with the Native youth so they can have conversations about the book that is everything you want to know about Indians, but we're afraid to ask. So they can have a group or have a conversation about both the advantages and educational pieces in that book, as well as the pieces that from an Indigenous perspective are still problematic within the book, and allow them to have those conversations with other Native people, as opposed to having to teach at the same time as they're trying to have the conversation, you know, to teach non-Natives while they're trying to kind of process through that. West Fargo Library, we have a series of events that we're planning, one a month, and we're looking at doing, so Delta variant needs to be kind of the caveat here. So everything is, we're really just careful right now. But we had originally planned on doing a fall festival of some sort that would be outside in partnership with West Fargo Library. We'd also talked about doing something on food sovereignty and a cooking session. I know moving into the new year, we are bringing out Lee Francis from Red Planet Books and doing some work with youth around graphic novels and traditional ecological knowledge and how do you transmit that knowledge. And we've written a grant that actually incorporates that. And so it's a way to connect our elders with our youth in a way that allows them to pass on that knowledge in a way that is relevant to them. And so I wrote into that, Anna Johnson has said that she would be willing to work with youth and teach them printmaking. And so it's really this idea of taking the ecological knowledge and transferring that over then into contemporary forms of media and communication. And so they'll have that opportunity, and then working with Joe Williams, if he is available, on storyboards and thinking through graphic novels, and then connecting Lee Francis coming out with that. And if you're unfamiliar with him, he also started the Indigenous Comic-Con, and he has the only Indigenous comic book store in the country. So he's really been highly sought after by Marvel and what's the other one? Can't remember the other one. I don't follow it that well. So those are just some of the things we have on deck with West Fargo. They did do this month an underwear drive, and they were looking for an organization for their donations, and they asked us if we would be interested. So there's apparently a National Underwear Day in August, which I was unaware of, but now you know, if you did not know, that this is a thing. And they set up displays around the Captain Underpants book series and did a lot of stuff in the library, and they collected 1,024 items of new packaged underwear, onesies, socks, diapers, all sorts of things, and then donated those to the Indigenous Association. And then they also do a mitten drive, and they also have people who will knit. And so they get a lot of hats and they get a lot of scarves, but they can't distribute those into the schools like they do the mittens. And so they also gave us a big box of hats and mittens. And so our thought with this is to figure out how to wrap it to Indigenous Peoples Day, if in fact we get to have the powwow in person at Moorhead High School, how we can distribute all of these items to people who might need them prior to winter. And then more specifically, with the hats and the scarves, we would be targeting somewhere like Gladys Ray and making sure that people who need winter clothing get it before the traditional December and January clothing drives for winter clothes, because by then they're already cold and they're put out on the street every morning. So we want to make sure that they have the gear before they need it as opposed to after. With Fargo Library, we're doing a lot. I'm sorry if this is like taking too much time. But with Fargo Library, we're doing more educational series where I told you our prong is like community outreach and engagement and then educational opportunities. And so with Fargo Library, that has been a really fruitful partnership as well. So on the 28th of September, we're hosting a panel, and it's on boarding schools. And so one of the things that Tanya has done is really kind of take the lead in asking the faith community where they are. Right, it was the question that was coming up over and over and over again, and she's had really positive response from the faith community in the area. And we've been meeting weekly since August on how is there accountability, right, by the faith community, and how can we educate, John, to your point, how can we better educate people who are unaware of the boarding school issue about what is going on? So the first event that we're having is on the 28th, and we have Joseph McNeil coming over, and Karen Van Fossen and I will be on a panel for that at Fargo Library at 6 o'clock. The following night in the Indigenous Association space, we're hosting a tribal historic preservation officer from Fort Belknap to come and speak to all of the people who are really interested in getting involved. They're interested in the activism, but making sure that we remind particularly non-Indigenous people who want to get involved that there are a series of federal laws and tribal protocol that have to be observed prior to just jumping in and thinking you're going to go start digging, right? Or helping people understand the best way to help tribes and the tribal historic preservation officers as Deb Hallen moves into the process of identifying where all of our relatives' remains are. And so that's something that we're very excited about. And then on the 30th, if we can get a mayoral proclamation or even the commission to approve at the following meeting, we are already doing a Remembrance Walk. And Tanya is, and by we I mean really Tanya, is organized. I don't want to take credit where I don't deserve credit. And so Tanya's been organizing this for quite some time. So we worked with a local artist who'd already created the graphic that we're hoping to use across the state as a North Dakota collective effort, and we've procured the image use rights to that, and we'll start advertising for that. So we have the 28th, 29th, and 30th, 3 days in a row activities at 6 o'clock. And we made them all 6 so we could all remember, because we're all busy, we all have other jobs, right? So we would invite you to any of these. Okay? We would really like to see more participation. And I think the last piece, I mean, there's a lot of pieces, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. The last piece is, I've got 2 other things. Okay, I'm going to tell you this one first, because then I can end on the more exciting one. Actually, this is kind of exciting too. So yesterday, it's all exciting. It's very hard for me to stand here and control my enthusiasm in a room of commissioners. So yesterday, we submitted a grant for $350,000 to the Robert J. Woods. Is that Robert J. Whitney? Is it Robert J. Woods Foundation?
Robert Wood Johnson.
Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, in partnership with the American Indian Public Health Resource Center, that will provide us the opportunity to take the lead on an Indigenous community health assessment. So Whitney had brought to our attention the fact that the kind of Fargo Moorhead, led by Asensi and Sanford, surveys that had gone out had very little representation of Native peoples, and the questions that were asked were a deterrent, really, to a lot of people who might have participated, but by and large, most people just didn't even know about it. And so we wrote this grant to operationalize a very more intentional, meaningful, and indigenously appropriate Indigenous community health survey. And that's a 3-year grant that we're hoping to get. And the bulk of the money, as opposed, most time you write a university grant, and the university gets all of the money, and then you might get $5,000 or something like that. The purpose of this grant was actually to provide that money into an organization. So if we are awarded that grant, then that will allow us to add approximately $60,000 a year to our operating costs. So we're really excited about that one. We hit send yesterday. Fingers crossed. And then there's some other grants that we're working on right now. And then last, Indigenous Peoples Day. And so this has been a little bit slow to get going and planning. So it's supposed to be centered in Moorhead this year. And one of the things is first to issue an invitation, right, to the commission and to the city governments. And I don't know who to talk to. It's one of the things I don't know how we get the mayor, right, to show up, but I heard he shows up, so I think that's great. We want to do a joint opening on Veterans Bridge. And so one of the things that, from an outsider looking in, it was always a little bit confusing to me as to why we went back and forth between the cities for things, particularly on an event like Indigenous Peoples Day, which is to really acknowledge that the Red River as a boundary between cities and states is arbitrary and inconsequential to us as Indigenous people. And so I met with the commission, the Moorhead Human Rights Commission, and suggested let's have a more unifying theme. So in future years, as we start to plan Indigenous Peoples Day, we can have a more citywide, meaning both cities, right? With both cities having recognized Indigenous Peoples Day now, a joint effort. And they were very much in favor of that. I don't know if you're in favor of that, and you don't have to decide if you're in favor of that today, but it's something that after we get done with planning this year, I think we're going to have to get the commissions together and have some conversations about that. We just don't have time to do that this year. So we're going to open on Veterans Bridge. We would like to invite all of you to come. And the purpose of Veterans Bridge, of course, it spans the Red River. It shows a solidarity between the two communities. And then, very importantly, we want to make sure that we're acknowledging veterans, right, in that time. And we want to really speak about the land and the water and open it in a way that takes Indigenous Peoples Day back to the very important pieces that are supposed to be there and not focusing so much on the aesthetic pieces that make people feel good, right? And to that end, we're very excited for that work. One piece to that, I know there's a logo for the different cities. We actually commissioned an original artwork for our posters, for our T-shirts, for everything this year, and we'd asked Anna this year to commission or to create an original piece of art. So not only will we have then a way to support local artists, so every year we can identify a different artist who can do that, but then we can amass a collection of original art from our local artists that we will have in perpetuity, right? And have those up on the walls in the Indigenous Association space to show how we're really trying to call people in. So our goal is to make sure that we're creating a space that allows all of the voices. As I had mentioned, we're all busy, we all have second jobs, but when I'm in this space, what I've really come to learn is it's always the same couple of people who are tasked with doing a lot of the work. So one of the things that we've been very intentional about is reaching out to the people whose voices are not represented, and reaching out to the people who might want to get involved but just don't know how to get involved, and figure out how to do that. So we meet now Wednesday nights, which I would also invite you to join us. I can certainly get you the link. We're meeting on Zoom Wednesday nights, so people who work day jobs and can't get away have the opportunity to participate, and so people who have kids in activities don't have to worry about anything, and they have the opportunity to participate in planning that. Kind of rambling now. I also lost your card, so I didn't put you on the list. I'm sorry about that. It's in my stack of stuff from the picnic. But join us. So with Indigenous People, what else is going on? We're right now on hold with Moorhead because we don't know about Delta. Everything is on hold. We don't know anything about Delta, but we do have Whitney on our board, and Whitney is really helping us keep apprised of what we need to be paying attention to. So one of our planning pieces there, the only one that we have definitely in person is that opening because it's outdoors and because people will still have the masks and sanitizer available. That's not debatable, but because it's outdoors, we can still do that outdoors and have a drum group or a hand drum. Okay. And so from there, what we've done is instead of dictating to people who can do what and when and how and what's going to happen, we've taken the approach of really collectively figuring out what do people want to do and who already is doing things, and then creating a plan of events for the day that allows a wide range of opportunities. And so we have, I know NDSU was going to have a room unveiling for the new ballroom and theater names anyway. Right, so they're going to be doing that. Concordia has a really good event planned for the doctrine of discovery and what that means for boarding schools and what we should know about that. And on the Indigenous Association website, I just put the art that Anna created up. We have like an MMIP theme, the No Line 3. It's about these mosaics and expression, and here's kind of the issues we're dealing with. And so we're going to have virtual opportunities for people throughout the day to log on to these different topical focused webinars to learn more about the issues that they care about. And then with Melody over in Fargo schools, they're already doing their own programming anyway. So what we've had is everybody's crowdsourcing and putting all together what everybody's doing anyway, and we're putting it into a master's schedule. And then we'll have something with teachers, the Lunch and Learn for their credit as well. And then one of the more interesting things I'm excited about, this was Anna's idea, instead of doing an old documentary or something like that, like has been done in the past, we're going to do one of our specific webinars in media analysis of reservation dogs and potentially reservation dogs and Rutherford Falls. Right, so really thinking about contemporary representation, contemporary art, and so we want to do something on music. And Sandy Berlin, when we were just meeting the other day, had said she might be interested in doing something. I know she's hosting something in the IA space. I think that's it, right? There's a lot. There's a lot going on, and I don't know how well you follow us or how much you care to know, but I'm certainly more than happy to forward my monthly director reports to the commission as well, if anybody wants to get a handle on that. But I will say in closing, like we need more support and we need more participation. Right. So it would be really helpful if we're going to reach the pockets of people that we're trying to reach, that if we had more public support in terms of having some of our things posted maybe on the City of Fargo's Facebook page, like their social media, having some of our things added to the city calendar. And I don't know the logistics of that, but I have now the IA calendar on our website is populated through December, and we keep that very up to date. And we would love to see you at our events. We would love to see you part of our planning committees. You know, I think that moving forward, the challenge of being the programming arm of a commission is to make sure that we're actually representing what the commission wants. Right? And knowing that we're also a separate 501c3 that has its own strategic plan and goals. And so for us to best align with what it is you all want, right? Knowing that, or having maybe in our board meetings having an opportunity every quarterly perhaps to have a conversation would be helpful. Any questions you have? I know if I were a commissioner, I would have 100 questions.
Does anybody have any? John?
Madam Chair, how can people make donations?
So we have a donate button on our website.
Okay. And how about if you do you need office furniture?
We do.
We
do.
Tanya, could you connect us afterwards or at some point? Thank you.
Yeah, so we need office furniture. We need a large conference table. We basically need everything. And so it's one of the things that we wrestle with is, historically, we know that our Indigenous community organizations are relegated to like the dusty basements of churches, right? Or, the back room of the back room of the back room somewhere. And I think that the people who have been able to make sure that those places existed deserve a whole lot of credit, because it's not easy to try to maintain a space when you're already relegated into like the third, fourth, fifth choice space and nobody else wants it, so then we can have it. And we see this at NDSU, we see it at public schools, we see it everywhere, right? It's not new. And so one of the things that we do have to be mindful of is now we have this beautiful new space, and we've been very careful in thinking about how to go about furnishing that space, because we also then don't want to take that beautiful new space and then have it be the same furniture that was in 10 years ago Native American Center, which we do now. And it's not, I might sound ungrateful, and I'm not. Right, so if you have furniture that you can donate, like, we'd be more than happy, because our budget right now is such that aside from going to garage sales, which I would prefer not to do, we do want that type of support where it's furniture that actually belongs in a space like that.
Okay, well, thank you, Holly. And we hope you come every month to give us an update.
Potentially.
Okay.
Right. If I can't, I'll talk to Whitney.
Okay.
So, because as I said, the executive director's job is part-time, and sometimes I can't get out of meetings on campus, but
Yes.
I do plan on being here as much as possible.
Okay, thank you so much,
Thank you.
Holly. Okay, next, do we have any subcommittees that wish to report? Is there anything on the health and wellness? No? Okay, how about housing? No? Education? Okay. Yeah, we are just busy these days. And so I have an announcement here from NDSU currently has openings for its tribal initiative director and for its tribal partnerships manager. So for more information, go to ndsu.edu/employment. If anybody knows somebody or is interested. And I'm going to go ahead. Does any NAC members have any announcements?
Oh, yeah, I have an announcement. So the Fargo Public School Indian Education Program right now currently is planning, hopefully we'll be able to do this, is planning to host a back-to-school night for Native American kiddos in the Fargo Public Schools. And it'll be tentatively at Carl Ben Middle School from 6 to 9 on September 29th, which is a Wednesday. I'll be there. I have a booth set up, so hope to see some of you guys.
That's always a fun event. Does anybody have any questions on that? Nope. So I'll go ahead here. Sandy Berlin had meant to be here today to announce on Indigenous Days, the Sweet Medicine Elders meeting and meals on Indigenous Day are 12 to 3 p.m. at the Indigenous Association. So if you know any veterans or elders, just have them come up there for a free meal and get together. And she is working on some space or somewhere to hold these meetings also. So does anybody have any questions on that? Okay, here we go. Staff updates. Is there any city staff present that wants to update anything? Okay.
Yeah, Jamie Garvey, Fargo Fire, Deputy Fire Marshal. We had come to you with a flyer in the past saying that we are going to be hiring. The flyer was created internally, and with subject matter expert help and the help of the media department, we've come up with a better recruitment flyer. So we are having our event. The first one is September 11th, and that's going to be the 20-year anniversary of the September 11th attacks. We're hoping that people attend to sort of learn what our job is about, see if we can spark an interest in the fire service. We want people ready to hire. We are going to be hiring on the application period opens up on September 13th. But if there's also high school students who are interested in learning what it's going to take to prepare to take these jobs, we would love to just meet with people, let them see our stuff, and try to do some recruitment there. So this flyer was created by our media department, thankfully, this morning. I will send it out through the planning department. I'll get that forwarded on today. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Hi, Sergeant Bernier with the Police Department. I did have a couple of things to add real quickly. Although we don't have the cool equipment that the fire department has, we are hiring a community service officer. Unfortunately, that process closes tomorrow. That is a non-sworn position. They handle things like parking complaints, animal complaints, and animal control. And I oversee that unit, so we are going through the applications right now. So if that could be noted at some point, that the application closes Friday. So we are looking to hire in that position. Also, we had our outreach event, Fargo United, on Saturday. And I'd like to thank Madam Chair for presenting the All Nations Dance. That got a lot of good positive feedback on the Fargo Police Department Facebook page and other social media outlets. So that was nice, and I'd like to thank you for participating in that event.
You're welcome. John?
Madam Chair, I'm just curious if, is there any way we can light a fire in the community and get some applicants for these job openings while it's fresh? I'd just love to see some real number of applicants come your way, and we get so many benefits from it, plus the diversification of our public service departments. But maybe just send that flyer out, or people go out and think who you know could be an applicant and ask them to get their application in. It sometimes takes that, but what a great opportunity, I think, you know.
Okay, yes, everybody, just share with everybody. We could probably put this on the NAC, the poster maybe. All right.
And
Anybody?
I'm just going to make a couple announcements on
Okay.
behalf of the planning department. Well, first of all, on behalf of the Fargo Cass Public Health Department, just a reminder that they have COVID vaccine clinics every Tuesday from noon to 6, and then not tomorrow, but the next Friday and the next Friday, they'll also have them from 10 to 2 p.m. So that's just at the Fargo Cass Public Health Building. And then also a friendly reminder for anyone you know who may be seeking help with rent, just direct them to call 211. That's the best way to get them connected to rental assistance programs available.
Okay, thank you, Catlin. All right, so is there any other business? Hearing none, this meeting of the Native American Commission stands adjourned. Our next meeting will be scheduled for October 7th at noon.